When you're sitting at the kitchen table, scrolling through endless options for a weight distribution hitch, the biggest question that keeps popping up is simple: will this thing actually make my towing feel safer? Or am I just adding another piece of metal that sits in my garage for a year? That hesitation is real, especially when you hear stories about hitches that are either a nightmare to install or that never really tame the sway on those windy highway stretches. I'm going to walk through the B&W trailer Hitches Continuum system the way a seasoned weekend warrior would, talking about the day-to-day setup, the hidden trade-offs, and exactly who's going to get their money's worth. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the Continuum isn't marketed as a set-and-forget miracle. It's an underslung trailer coupler that sits a few inches lower than a traditional mount, which changes the geometry of how the trailer hangs off the ball. In practice, that lower profile can shave a couple of inches off your overall height, something that matters if you're navigating low-clearance bridges or trying to keep your center of gravity stable on a steep mountain pass. I tried it on a 6,000-pound fifth wheel that I normally pull with a factory-installed hitch. The moment I latched the coupler on, the hitch felt tighter, and the trailer's tendency to wiggle at 65 miles per hour was noticeably reduced. That's the sway control promise in action, not just a marketing tagline. Now, let's talk installation. The Continuum advertises a quick install, and that's not just fluff. The system uses a single-piece mounting bracket that bolts directly into a standard 2.5-inch receiver. In my case, I didn't have to cut any holes, weld anything, or pull out a whole set of specialty tools. A couple of wrenches, a torque wrench for the final tightening, and I was done in under an hour. For someone who isn't a mechanic by trade but still wants a reliable hitch, that speed of setup is a genuine time saver. That said, the quick part does assume your truck already has a compatible receiver. If you need to upgrade from a 2-inch to a 2.5-inch, you're adding an extra step in cost that the product description doesn't highlight. What about the ride quality? The quiet ride claim isn't about eliminating every noise. No hitch can completely silence the hum of a trailer's tires on the highway, but the Continuum's internal rubber isolators do dampen the high-frequency vibrations that often get transmitted into the cab. On a long haul across the desert, the cabin felt noticeably calmer after the first 30 minutes, and I didn't have to keep adjusting my seatbelt or worry about the trailer's rear lights flickering. That reduction in vibration not only makes the drive more pleasant but also lessens fatigue on long trips, which is a practical win for anyone who does more than a weekend getaway. There are a few practical weaknesses that show up once you move beyond the first test drive. Because the coupler is underslung, the ball sits lower, which means the trailer's tongue sits closer to the ground. On uneven parking surfaces or when loading heavy gear onto the trailer, you might find the hitch bottoming out a bit sooner than with a traditional mount. In my experience, loading a full set of camping equipment required a slight adjustment of the trailer's position to avoid scraping the hitch's lower bracket. If you frequently use steep ramps or low-profile trailers, that extra clearance consideration could become a nuisance. Another point to keep in mind is the weight distribution capacity. The Continuum is designed to handle a wide range of loads, but it does have a ceiling that aligns with the one-system-fits-all claim. For most light to medium-duty setups, say, a 5,000 to 7,000 pound trailer, it performs admirably. However, if you're pulling a massive horsebox or a travel trailer that tops out at 10,000 pounds, you'll want to double-check the manufacturer's limits and possibly look at a dedicated weight distribution bar that offers higher capacity. Skipping that step could leave you with a hitch that does a decent job at sway control but doesn't fully level the load, which defeats the purpose of a weight distribution system. Who should buy this? If you're a DI-oriented owner-operator who already has a 2.5-inch receiver, need a hitch that can be installed in an afternoon, and want a noticeable reduction in sway without the bulk of a full-size bar, the Continuum hits the sweet spot. It's also a solid pick for renters or seasonal users who don't want to commit to a permanent, welded solution. The price point sits comfortably between the cheap, no-frills hitches that often disappoint and the premium systems that require professional installation. For those looking to get a tangible improvement in stability and ride comfort without a major overhaul, the value proposition is clear. Who should skip it? If your trailer setup pushes the upper limits of the Hitches rating, or if you regularly drive on rough, unpaved roads where the lower coupler might catch on obstacles, you'd be